it's monthly wrap-up time. March just passed, and let's just say it's been a long month. I managed to read a lot of books. Surprisingly, I didn't expect that, but I guess springtime just awakened inside of me for some reason. I don't know, but I did read quite a bunch of books. I didn't watch as many movies as I usually do, which I think that's connected to the fact that I read a lot of books, because in the months where I watched a lot of movies, I didn't read as much. But now I read a lot and I didn't watch as much. That aside, let's first of all talk about the books that I read this month. And if you're subscribed, you already know that I read this month, and it is Percy Jackson, The Heroes of Olympus series. And this has been on my list for a long time, and I finally managed to read them, and I'm going to put them down again. I'm not going to review these in this video, because there is a whole reading vlog dedicated to them, but let's just say I love them. I'm a big fan of the Percy Jackson books at my core. So of course I did love them a lot, and I cried a bunch and I screamed a lot, and you can see that all in my reading vlog. And I also in that reading vlog read Chalice of the Gods, which, especially after reading Heroes of Olympus, this was very exciting for me to read, just because I missed Percy's POV so much. And I had a great time, and I'm really proud of that vlog. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts, please watch that. Then there were only 3 books left, which that's crazy because those were 6 books and I read those in the span of 5 or 6 days. And yeah, the next book I did a lot of reading vlogs this month apparently, and the next book was my most anticipated release of the year, which I am filming a video of second half of the year releases that I'm very excited for. So if you're interested in that, look out for it. And the release that I'm talking about, of course, is the new Hunger Games book, and this is Sunrise on the Reaping. And just like with the Percy Jackson books, if you care to hear my thoughts, watch my reading vlog about it, but I will tell you a bit more about this one. I am a huge Hunger Games fan, have always been, and this was everything I wanted and more. I am currently thinking this might just be my new favorite Hunger Games book. Not so sure, because it's very different but also very much the same, but it just felt so full circle and everything just came together so well that this just might be my favorite, and I love the characters in these a lot. And I'm not going to spoil anything. If you want the spoiler review on this, watch the other video, and this was a 5-star. The Percy Jackson books I tend not to rate because it seems wrong, because I usually, even though it doesn't seem like it based on the books I'm showing you right now, but I usually read more literary fictional classics, or more gothic / deeper books. And not saying that Percy Jackson books aren't deep, but they are YA fantasy books with a light undertone, and I'm not gonna rate them even though I love them a lot. Anyway, a 5-star read. I was very nervous that this was going to disappoint me, but it did the exact opposite. It exceeded my expectations, which I didn't think was possible because I expected a lot from this. But I'm very happy that it's finally out and that the people get to talk about it. And like I said, not to self-promote again, but it is in my last reading vlog. Now the next book I don't have a physical copy of yet. It is Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna van Veen, and before I read this one, I also read My Darling Dreadful Thing, I think around last November. And I just fell in love with the writing style when I saw that I could maybe try and request an arc on Ned Kelly for her new book. I immediately did. Read it pretty quickly, I think, and it just was such a great book. I think it's even maybe better than her first one. And Blood on Her Tongue follows 2 sisters, and one of these sisters starts experiencing weird symptoms and she starts feeling very ill mentally and physically. And the other sister, it's in her POV, she then starts to go back to her sister to check up on her, and while she's taking care of her sister, she's starting to notice these weird things happening. And yeah, this is just a great, wonderful written gothic story about vampirism, sisterhood, but also sapphic love story, a wonderfully written sapphic love story. It's very bloody, very eerie, creepy, and pretty disgusting at points. And like all great gothic stories, it features a bog body, and it's just a really beautifully written story. I think Johanna van Veen has such a way with words. She just writes so poetic and at some point simple, but still in the most romantic way ever. And she just I think she really brilliantly did the sisterhood relationship in this one. It's just, and also just, there were so many lines that I just had to underline because they were so gorgeous. So if you want a gothic book recommendation, that's for you. The next book has actually been featured in my spring TBR, and I'm so proud of myself for already having read it. And it's Jeanette Winterson's Written on the Body, and I read this in one sitting, I think, if I remember correctly. It was like a week ago, but boy, am I glad that I read this. I'm like, thinking back on it, this was a really great reading month, not only because I read a lot of books, but also because I have kept them all on my mind, and also because they were all pretty great. This just made me want to read more for work, which I'm super excited for, because I also know that she has a bunch of books out there, so I have enough material to go through. And Written on a Body is this wonderful sapphic summer romance that turns very intense and full of love, but also very emotional and heartbreaking. Super glad that this was my first Jeanette Winterson experience, because I think it just was the right time to read it, and I was in the right mindset, and I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but it's probably not showing up on camera, but I underlined a sentence on every page, and on some pages even more than that. She writes so beautifully, and it's just so poetic and romantic, but very interesting to read about, and I felt a lot of love reading this, and it's just wonderful. I will read you the blurb, because I don't think I did the book justice by my summary. In a quiet English suburb, a love affair ignites. For our nameless narrator, Louise is the last in a long line of explosive passions, but the first to have broken their heart. With Louise's husband, Elgin, blocking love's course, the affair is doomed to unravel until, that is, a terrible choice must be made. With its witty and masterful prose, Written on the Body takes the reader on a beguiling and defying exploration of love in its physical forms. And just the way these two women spoke about each other, I just love being a queer woman. And surprising to no one, the last book I read in March, and maybe telling of the next books I will read in April. And then I swear after April I will be done with this franchise, but I did read Trials of Apollo. The Hidden Oracle, which is the first one in this series, and I have currently 5 more books to go on my shelf, and I swear then I'll be done if I don't buy any other books. I'm not making a reading vlog out of these. I think one Percy Jackson reading vlog is enough. I hope. This was great. I thought the POV switch was really interesting, because if you don't know anything about Percy Jackson, Trials of Apollo is from the point of view of the god Apollo, who as a punishment was transformed into a mortal being, a 16-year-old boy with acne, and Apollo, at least how Rick Riordan captured him, is very arrogant and very self-assured. Let's just say that. He's very self-assured, and giving him acne and putting him into a 16-year-old pubescent body really scratches on his ego, and I thought that POV was really funny, and the way you can see his character arc was really well done, and I really liked this. I was sad about Percy having like 5 lines, but it's whatever. I will survive, and I'm excited for the trials to come. And those are all the books. I thought I'd talk much longer about them, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. I read 10 books this month, which I think is a good amount of books to read in a month. I'm really excited for what I'm gonna read next, and I'm hoping I read as much as I did this month, maybe even more, because I have a bunch of exciting books on my TBR. Also some unreleased books that I want to go ahead and read. And that is that for the books. I didn't think I'd go through them so quickly, but here I am. I didn't think you would want to hear the blurbs of the Hunger Games or the Percy Jackson books, just because, well, they're pretty well known. And let's get into the movies I watched. The first movie I watched in March was actually an adaptation, and I didn't read the book, and I'm probably not going to, even though this was a great movie. I also didn't review this because I just really didn't know how to review this. But I'll tell you about it. This movie was The Book Thief, 2013, directed by Brian Percival, and not to sound weird, but I did want to watch this because of Sophie Nélisse, and I'm a big fan of her. I love Yellow Jackets. And I've always wanted to see this movie, and I was really surprised that I hadn't yet. And I'm glad I did. It's a good movie. I really don't have much to say about this. I think the topic was, of course, very, 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 very important. I'll read you the summary. While subjected to the horrors of World War II Germany, young Liesel finds solace by stealing books and sharing them with others. Under the stairs in her home, a Jewish refugee is being sheltered by her adoptive parents. Now, the first thing that I noticed was the German accents, and I'm always very much entertained by German accents, to say the least. I never know if, like, the movie intentionally makes the accent sound worse, or if they just, I don't know. The accent was really interesting, but it's fine. I managed to look past it, and it's a very emotional story. I wasn't necessarily surprised, because of course World War II was very tragic, and I didn't expect a happy ending. But I didn't expect such a devastating ending. Yeah, I thought all of the characters were really well thought out. I thought that you could tell their backstories and their intentions and why they were doing the things that they were doing. And it was a really sweet story. There were definitely a lot of aspects that I think could have been done better, especially in telling the story of Jewish people. And I thought the idea with her stealing the books and learning through the books, and especially learning how to read through her adopted father, was a really sweet addition to the story, and very powerful, because books have always, there's a big discourse on TikTok about this right now, books have always been political, and if teenage Liesel knows that, then you should know that too. There were a few one-liners in here that really tore me apart. There was one, what was it? Well, spoiler warning, but it's also just a one-liner. One person says, "I want to grow up before I die." And that tore me apart, especially considering the history with World War II, of course, but also the current situation we're living in. But this was a great movie. I didn't rate it yet, but I think I'd give it like a 3.5, but a very good 3.5. The next movie I watched was actually a documentary, and I have a lot to say about this one, because I enjoyed it so much. And it's Witches, 2024, directed by Elizabeth Sankey. And before I say anything else, I really didn't know what to expect going into this. I saw the trailer back when the trailer came out, and I was very excited. I have always been hyperfixated on witches, so I was very excited. I know a lot about the witch trials and just witch history in general, and the trailer was obviously packed with a lot of famous witches in media, so I was really excited. And this didn't disappoint. It just was very different from what I expected, but I think this is a great thing, because I don't know if this was done purposefully, but the promo was very different from the actual end product. And if this was done purposefully, I think it's very well done, because I think this will reach a lot more people that way. And yeah, when I thought going into this that this was just going to be a deep, intense storytelling on the witch trials connected to modern womanhood, and while it was that, it was also very much so comparing the witch trials to modern motherhood instead of womanhood, which is not too different from one another, but it very much focused on motherhood, which I didn't despise. I just was surprised by it, but I think because I didn't know that this was going to be the main topic at hand, I was very surprised in the best way possible, and I cried a bunch. This movie really stuck with me, and I've been thinking about it ever since I watched it, and I watched it at the beginning of this month, and I'm really grateful that I watched this. It was beautifully crafted, and Elizabeth Sankey really poured her soul and love into this, you could really tell. And there's this one quote at the end that really, 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 really stuck to me. If I can, I'll put it in here, but you can also watch it if you want. I'll read you the summary, and then I'll tell you some more about it. Elizabeth Sankey's deeply personal documentary examines the relationship between the cinematic portrayals of witches and the all-too-real experiences of postpartum depression by utilizing footage that spans the entirety of film history alongside heart-rending personal testimony. This is what the documentary is about, and throughout this documentary, Elizabeth Sankey tells her own personal experience with postpartum depression, but she's also given the women that helped her space to talk about their own. I don't know what happened, but we stopped recording, but I hope it's not going to do that again. She included some really brilliant stories and some wonderful women in here, and I was really surprised to see some recognizable faces in here. It was really touching to see them speak so openly about their experiences, but every single person included in this, my heart goes out to you, and every single person that wasn't included to this, but it has experienced that. And just the cinematography and the way they shot this, and then the comparing to the actual witch trials, but also the witches portrayed in media. Well done, very magical and very emotional. And because I think I'm not going to be able to put the clip in here, I will read you it, because I did write it down just because it stuck with me for such a long time. This is the quote at the end of the movie. Spoilers if you want to see it. In your life, you too will find that your sense of reality shifts. You will be pulled into worlds that are so horrible you cannot even begin to process them. Rooms that make your knees weak. Madness and darkness, horror and pain are always here waiting. They will come for us all, but then so will joy, beauty, love, and magic. Every woman is a witch, and every witch needs a coven. And if I tell you that I've been thinking about this ever since, I have. I made a TikTok about this. I just love the way this was written, and it's just so powerful, and I just got goosebumps again. And the first time I read this out loud to someone, or I think I was just sitting next to someone who was reading it themselves. I don't know. I cried. It just meant a lot to me. And that is my review on Witches. I gave it 4 stars. I honestly think I could give it a 4.5. It's a very well done documentary. I also it's not really a movie because it is a limited series, but I think I want to mention it because it's obviously being talked about a lot at the moment, but it's a very important watch, and that is Adolescence. Very, very important watch. Just wanted to mention it. And is there anything else that I kind of watched but didn't finish yet? I started watching La Chimera. I just haven't finished it yet, so look out for that in my April wrap up. And the last movie, I just only watched 3 that I watched this month, was Odessa 2025, directed by Jeremy Jasper. And there was one reason I watched this, and that is because I do have a huge crush on Sadie Sink, which she's the main character in this. It also stars Kevin Harrison, Murray Bartlett, Regina Hall, and it's an okay movie. Sadie Sink in this, wonderful, beautiful. I forgot half of the plot because I just kept on staring at her, but this is the summary. A farm girl is on an epic quest to recover a cherished family heirloom. Her journey leads her to a strange and dangerous city where she meets her one true love. But in order to save her soul, she must put the power of destiny and song to the ultimate test. I thought the use of song and music was really nice in this, and because music is powerful, it connects communities like no other thing. I think that's a beautiful way of showing the power of music. It was a bit not cringe. I don't like to use the term cringe, but it was a bit. I think I didn't appreciate the script as much as I hoped I would. And I really expected Odessa to be queer, but then she wasn't. But also the guy that she fell in love with was also very queer, so it's whatever. It's not a big deal. It truly was a very okay movie. There were many things that could have been done better, but it also wasn't horrible, you know. It did have some good qualities. I'm a huge enjoyer of musicals, but I have to say that some of these lyrics felt very flat and predictable and very simple, but I think that also might have been done for a reason, so just that to make it more accessible for everyone, and also because of the dystopian world they live in, but I'm not too sure. Anyway, it's a very good and okay movie. Nothing spectacular. Cool costuming, cool set design, cool idea. Not so well executed. Sadie Sink is beautiful, blah blah blah, backstory stuff. That is it. I hope I watch more movies next month. I need to learn how to balance reading and watching movies, and also all of my 100 other hobbies that I want to do but never do. In life of a girl with ADHD, I guess. Oh, I also started watching Picnic at Hanging Rock, which I also haven't finished yet because I was distracted by my books. That's it for March. I hope you had a wonderful start of spring. Tell me about some of your favorites that you watched or read this month, and see you in the next one. That's it.